What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different as I'm going to be rating the Halo games, at least on the multiplayer side, from worst to best. If you know me personally, you would know that I love Halo. It's the first video game franchise I ever got invested in, my first online multiplayer experience, the first franchise I played competitively, both in like ranked and actual esports, and it's the only franchise I can come back and play for hours on end for both the single player and the multiplayer. This franchise means so much to me, and without it, I don't know where I would be right now. And with Halo Infinite coming soon, I decided to come back to these games and rate them from worst to best. I'm going to start with the multiplayer first and work on the campaign later since it's easier that way. Before I begin the video, I need to clarify a few things. 1. I prefer competitive games a bit more than casual games. I'm not saying that I don't like casual video games or just to play video games casually, but I prefer for games to be balanced and competitively viable over just throwing random things at players and having them just abuse whatever they can. Kind of like what Modern Warfare 2 did. 2. No matter what I say in this video, don't take this list as a definitive list of which multiplayer is better than the other. This is just my personal preference. And 3. No matter what place each game is in, know that I enjoy every single Halo game to a certain extent for different reasons. So don't take this as me saying Halo X above Y, as Halo Y being the worst Halo game ever. Take it as me enjoying both of these games. I just enjoy X more than Y. With that being said, let's get into the first and worst multiplayer in my opinion, Halo Reach. I know this game is a favorite to many players, so let me explain. Halo on a competitive level is about predictability. You usually know what each player is capable of, the map layout, the weapons on the map, how long it takes for each piece of equipment and weapon to spawn, and from there you can strategize and get the upper hand. This doesn't really work in Halo Reach. Reach introduced a new loadout system where you could pick abilities at the start of each match. Abilities aren't new to the game, they're usually lying around on the map for players to pick up, but being able to choose them from spawn wasn't a great idea. This adds randomness to the game. You have no idea what your opponents are going to use until they use it. They could have anything from jetpacks, sprint, or the virginity shield. I could go for a strategic melee attack and they could just turn invincible, bring my shields down instantly, and kill me with no counter to it whatsoever. Or maybe you could bring someone to half health and they just fly away to another portion of the map you can't reach. There is no visual indication of what players have until they use it. What I would have done to fix this is by having everyone glow depending on what they have. So maybe white would be jetpack, green would be sprint, purple would be evade, or just not have loadouts in the first place. Another mechanic that completely ruined the game for me was bloom. This is basically randomness added to your shooting. The faster you pull the trigger, the more bloom comes into effect. Some people tell me to just pace my shots, but there's still randomness to it and someone else can just get lucky by spamming the trigger. And Reach also introduced bleed through, which is bullets being able to kill you even if you have some shield left, which makes every gunfight luck based. It was so bad that Bungie had to make 9 different versions of multiplayer. The base settings, the TU settings, which is basically the base settings with bloom reduced, and 7 different MLG settings, with the final version having no bloom and no loadouts. And while that did make the game feel a bit better, the base game was still stuck in either the base settings or in TU, which meant you had to play ranked or custom games in order to get the better version. Speaking of custom games, I will say that custom games were the best in the franchise in Reach specifically, and it's really the only reason why I don't completely hate this game. But it still doesn't make up for the base game, and if the base game doesn't feel good to play, I'm not going to enjoy everything else that much. Again, I don't flat out hate any of these Halo games, including Reach. I just enjoy some more than others. With that being said, let's move on to the next game, Halo 4. Wait. You like Halo 4, a 343 game, over Halo Reach? Well, yes and no. I'd say Reach and 4 are pretty tied to each other since they're both very similar games with a few things tweaked. Halo 4 brought back loadouts, but they somehow made it worse by letting you actually customize each loadout with abilities, and sprint was tied to every Spartan along with whatever armor ability you wanted, so you could sprint and jetpack away from people, which wasn't fun. 343 also added ordnance drops, which were basically score streaks where you would call some kind of weapon or a power-up whenever you got enough points. Again, this adds randomness. But one of the reasons why I prefer Halo 4 over Halo Reach is because 343 quickly removed bloom and bleed through, making gunfights feel a lot better and more consistent than Reach's. And even though 4v4 was still as bad as Halo Reach's, Big Team Battle in Halo 4 ended up being one of my favorite versions of Big Team Battle in the franchise. B2B to me is supposed to be a chaotic war, and Halo 4 did the job fantastically in my opinion. A lot of people like to compare this game to Call of Duty, but I'd argue this feels more like Battlefield than anything else, which is another franchise I enjoy. This and the removal of bloom and bleed through are the only reasons why I prefer Halo 4 over Halo Reach. Everything else sucked as much as Reach. This next one might make you guys hate me, but I'm putting Halo 2 Classic next. Don't get me wrong, I love this game and I have so many great memories playing it, but there are a few things that killed the mood for me. Let's start with what I really like about this game. The map pool includes some of my favorite maps of all time, such as Midship, Turf, Zanzibar, Ascension, and Lockout. The weapons also felt really good to play with. The BR in Halo 2 remains to be one of my favorite battle rifles of all time, and I really like the physics of the game. The only reason why this game is so low on the list is because of how broken of a game it is. While the balance is perfectly fine in my opinion, there were a lot of bugs and glitches in the game that broke that balance. For those that don't know, Halo 2 was a rushed product. The game actually looks and feels worse than its predecessor Halo Combat Evolved. What many players quickly found were button combos. If you mash certain buttons together, they can mess with the physics of the game. There are really easy ones that can either cancel reload animations or reload faster, and there are really complicated ones that can turn the battle rifle into a laser accurate assault rifle, which wasn't supposed to be a thing if you couldn't tell. Speaking of assault rifles, why wasn't the assault rifle in Halo 2? It's not a negative, I'm just kind of throwing it out there, but it's just kind of weird that Halo 2 is the only game that doesn't have an assault rifle. Even Halo 2 Anniversary has one, why doesn't the old one have one? Anyways, if people played casually and played the game like a normal person without the button combos and the glitches, the game would be fine for the most part. But if you're someone who wanted to play this competitively, you needed to know at least the basic button combos or else you weren't going to get far. If tomorrow 343 decided to fix the button combos, I would put this much higher on my list, but I sincerely doubt that's going to happen considering how everyone associates button combos with Halo 2 Classic, so we're just going to have to live with it. If Halo 2 Classic being so low on the list didn't make you hate me, this next one really is. But I'm putting Halo 5 above Halo 2 Classic.
Halo 5 is a Call of Duty game because it has aim down sights and sprint. Halo 5 was pay to win. Halo died with Halo 5 because it was made by 343 instead of Bungie. Every Halo game that isn't a clone of Halo 3 with better graphics is automatically trash. You're not a true Halo fan if you enjoy playing a Halo game made by 343.
You shut the fuck up.
Also,
you shut the fuck up.
Get you a little bit.
You shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up.
I hate it when people call this a Call of Duty game, mainly because it's nothing like Call of Duty. I think this mainly comes from the game having sprint and aim down sights, quote unquote, but sprint is actually good in this game and the aim down sights isn't even true aim down sights. Let's start with the ADS since a lot of people get really confused with that. In Call of Duty, if you don't aim down sights, you hip fire, which is basically your bullets going everywhere inaccurately and randomly. When you aim down sights, the gun becomes accurate. Halo 5 doesn't work this way. If you hip fire in Halo 5, the gun is still very accurate. Aiming down sights literally doesn't do anything other than zoom in and activate your hover thrusters. And that's really all it is, a zoom. Every gun just happens to have one in this game. I understand if you don't like the animation of the zoom as it really is an animation of aiming down sights, but it's only an animation, it's not that big of a deal. Sprinting, while it does exist in the game, it's actually done in a way where it's not abusable. Everyone has unlimited sprint. Your health does not regenerate when you sprint, and you can't start sprinting if you're being shot at. This removes the randomness of the ability and adds more predictability to it. So now I can't just run away from every single engagement, I actually have to fight my way out of things while still having sprint available when I do finish that fight. Armor abilities are here as well, but they're all tied to the Spartan, and most of them are just thrusters. This is also implemented in a predictable way. If someone uses a thruster to move away, they can't thrust anymore for a certain amount of time, which makes them vulnerable. The one thing I didn't like about this game was that it was one of those games that lacked content at launch and was fixed over time. At first, multiplayer only had ranked, social wasn't even a thing. Forge was also non-existent, LAN wasn't supported, and split screen wasn't supported. After a while, we got all of that, except for split screen. I think that has to do something with the engine it was created on, and a bunch of new weapons and content that were totally unnecessary, yet welcome, such as the return of old weapons, armor pieces from previous games, and even a server browser. But Crow, the game was pay to win with the Rex. While I do agree that the Rex system for Warzone specifically was pay to win, it did not affect the base casual or competitive experience and was completely ignorable. And the Rex that did leak into those categories were either purely cosmetic or could be used without paying for anything. Heck, some of them even leaked into the campaign, but let's forget that existed in the first place. The maps were also very fun to play since a lot of them opened up opportunities to use thrusters in creative ways. I get that this wasn't a classic Halo game, but this was the first non-classic Halo game that felt really good to play, both casually and competitively, at least to me. The next game on our list is actually something that people don't really talk about a lot: Halo 2 Anniversary. I'm aware that I already reviewed Halo 2, but the Anniversary Edition is not the same game. A lot of people seem to forget that this multiplayer even existed, probably because people assume it's just Halo 2 with better graphics, but it's not, it's so much more. The spirit of Halo 2 is definitely here, just modified. Remember how I talked about how broken Halo 2 was? All of that is gone, thank God. So say goodbye to button combos, super jumps, rocket sword lunges. All of those have been patched while adding in a new few things and modifying existing weapons. For example, the battle rifle is a lot more accurate and sticky, the assault rifle was added, the energy sword now has ammo, and some of the maps were given environmental modifications. The only negative I have with this game are the maps, or lack thereof. There are only 10 maps, 3 of them being forged templates. Thankfully, the maps that are available are mostly fan favorites, but some of them were questionably left out, such as Turf and Midship. Well, I guess they were saving Midship for Halo 5, but come on, it's not Halo 2 without Midship. The game is basically everything I liked about Halo 2 without the stupid crap, along with pretty graphics. I understand if you like the classic over the Anniversary version, but personally, I like the Anniversary over the classic version. Again, that's just my opinion, just leave it as that. The next game on our list is Halo Combat Evolved. I actually used to dislike this game, mainly because I could never get around with how the game worked. I think part of this is because my previous experience was my 8-year-old self playing the OG Xbox against grown men through split screen, since Xbox Live just wasn't a thing at the time, but bringing it online to the Xbox One and Steam versions changed my entire perspective of this game, and it's actually become one of my favorites. For starters, this game is fast-paced. The time to kill is really low compared to the other Halos. You can get mowed down with the assault rifle up close, you can get 3-shotted with a pistol, the shotgun is basically a sniper rifle, and the sniper rifle is, well, it's still a sniper rifle. But that's something I want to get into, the weapons, more specifically the Magnum. A lot of people complain that this is the most overpowered thing in the world. When you compare it to other Halo pistols, it is pretty overpowered, but in this game specifically, I think it's fine. I'd say every other weapon can counter the pistol in certain ranges. The AR shreds the pistol up close. You can pick off a pistol user with a sniper rifle or a rocket launcher, or just throw mini nukes at them. Another thing I liked about this game were the maps. There's pretty much something for everyone. You have your small maps like Wizard and Rat Race, medium-sized maps like Hang 'em High and Battle Creek, or you could play on Battlefield-sized maps like Sidewinder. These maps were so good that some of them have had multiple remakes in multiple games, like Blood Gulch. The only negative I have with this game are the spawn mechanics. Normally, the game would spawn you away from players so you don't get spawn killed. It doesn't work like this in this game. It relies on teammates, so no matter what situation your teammate is in, you're spawning on their ass no matter what, which caused a lot of spawn killing. But honestly, it doesn't ruin the game, it's just kind of there. It's really hard to talk about anything competitive about this game since the multiplayer itself was an afterthought, so no one expected this game to take off as far as it did. And even though there were tournaments for Halo Combat Evolved, the pro scene never really took off until Halo 2 came around. One last thing I want to point out is that I absolutely love the weapon launch mechanic, and I am so glad it's returning in Infinite. This might be because I'm a CSGO nerd and lining up nades is just normal to me at this point, but there's just something really satisfying about throwing a plasma grenade, having it hit the weapon, and having the weapon launch at you from across the map to grab it mid-air and to kill someone with it seconds after. With that being said, there is only one game left, and I know you guys probably expected it: Halo 3. This was another title I personally did not like back in the day, but MCC completely changed my perspective of the game. Nothing is really done super well, but I also can't say anything bad about this game. It kind of does everything perfectly. In my opinion, it had the best map pool, which included remakes of older maps like Midship. The gunplay, which is projectile based, felt really nice to me. Equipment is done perfectly in this game, and I'm so glad that is coming back in Halo Infinite, and I can't remember any balancing issues that broke the game completely. I think the only negative the community might have with this game is the projectile based gunplay I mentioned before, as the bullets travel really slow compared to Combat Evolved, but I think this comes down to personal preference because I actually like it. A lot of people might say I'm blinded by nostalgia, but remember, I was not a fan of this back in the Xbox 360 era, probably because the game was stuck at 720p 30 FPS and I just didn't understand how the game worked because I was only 8 when I first played the game. But now that the game is in a better state performance-wise, I think I could finally see why people love this game so much. And with more updates like Halo Online maps coming and the possibility of the long-awaited Turf remake on the way, I think this game will only further grow my interest in it. Now, this doesn't mean I'm one of those people that just wants every sequel to be Halo 3.5. I actually like when Halo games are different from each other because it gives me a reason to play all of them. And that's what I kind of like about Halo in general. There's something for everyone. Every multiplayer is different, every campaign is different, and even if you don't like video games whatsoever but are into the lore of Halo, there are books, movies, and a TV show in production that can help you with that. So that's going to be my list, so tell me how I'm not a true Halo fan down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for more content, and I will talk to you all later.